Welcome to R controlled month and W controlled month. Vowels have many different sounds. So when we are reading, it's the vowels that we have to concentrate and focus on and apply intellect and knowledge and like a mathematical formula to, so that we don't have to wonder what of those myriad of sounds is it going to say in this word. When we grew up, I'm sad that this is the case, but a lot of times, and still the case, a lot of times the kids grow up and they're taught that the sound they're taught that A says a, yeah, but they're not taught when. So when they go to read a word, they have to apply every single sound, and there's actually more than 4 sounds that A can make to that word, and then decide which one sounds the best in that word. That is exhausting, is it not? And it's just not efficient. And there's a better way. There's a much better way. You can know exactly what a vowel is going to say when you read a word. That's what we're doing here. We're applying our intellect and logic to figure out, we're changing reading into a math problem, figuring out the vowel sounds first, and then we go and read the word. In spelling class, we spell the vowels last. In reading class, we read the vowels first. We have to get a solid handle on what those vowels are doing before we can attempt to read the word. Okay, so today, our first R control vowel sound is AR. And I am going to show it to you as a unit. However, let me see what I'm doing here in the lesson. Yeah. I'm showing it to you as a unit. However, I want you to recognize it as 2 different sounds. So even though I show it to you as AR, that's because I need your brain to begin to recognize it as a unit type of package, because that R controls the vowel. However, there's micro sounds within that unit. The A says ah, the R says A is going to say ah when there's an R after it. That's the rule for the day. A will say ah most of the time when there's an R after it. Here are some real world examples. Art, cart, market, farm. You'll notice that the AR is mostly in the beginning and middle of words. Sometimes it can be at the end and still say R. However, that's only in single syllable words. When AR comes at the end, it's going to say something different. When AR comes at the end of a longer word, a multi-syllable word, it's going to say something different. So today, let me see what I have for you. Yeah, I don't have it at the end. Yay. So when AR is at the beginning and the middle, it's going to say R. Not always, but most of the time. I'm going to say a solid 85% of the time, AR will say R in the middle of a word. All right, so let's get reading. Now I'll share my screen. All right, so hopefully this is what you have printed out. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to underline this AR to teach our brain to recognize it as a package, so that we know that that R is affecting or influencing the sound of that A. That A is not saying A, it's not saying it's not saying it's making its R controlled sound. Ah, sounds like a short O, ah. So AR is going to say R in this lesson, and this E is making its it's short sound So our sounds are k, ah, even though I'm underlining it to teach my brain to recognize it, I'm still giving it 2 separate dots, because we dot the sounds, and there are 2 sounds in that unit. T, n. Ka, car, cart, carte, carton, carton. It's different than carton that we have in the real world. All right, go ahead and try yours over here. I'll be quiet while you work. All right. So here this AR we are learning to recognize as R. The A says ah because there's an R after it. It's its R controlled sound. E says eh because of the tap 2 rule. There's not a vowel in the next one or two spots. So we have pa, par, parf, parfait, parfen, parfen. Now as you can see here, we have an A, we have an E, I have an I have a U down here. That's because we're in July. So if you are just joining us, then beautiful, welcome. You're right here at the beginning of this month, so you're going to learn what I'm teaching you right along with everybody else. However, for the rest of the year, we're going to be introducing vowels that we learned in the beginning of the year. So in January, we focused only on A. In February, we focused only on E, all of the different sounds that they make and how to know when it's going to say which sound in the word. So those recordings are available for you, but you don't have to worry about watching 6 months worth of videos right now if you're just starting this, because I will remind you. I'll reteach those patterns so that you can learn right along with us. But the deep dive is in the beginning of the year. So if you're joining us mid-year, stay in, loop around, and you'll get the deep dive in June of next year. All right, so here we have an R. We have our hard sounds of C and G. We're going to do our deep dive of C and G in August. C and G will make their hard sound almost always. So always default to their hard sound, which is K and G. I'll teach you when they say different. And then this I is saying I because of the tap 2 rule. There's not a vowel there or there. So our sounds are G, ah, D, I, N, T. Make sure that this I is a different sound than this eh. Your jaw is dropped more on the eh than the I. Your jaw is dropped here, your mouth is stretched here. Eh, I, eh, I. So when we read this word, we have gardent. Gardent. Don't say dent. Your brain is going to want to make you say dent because you recognize it as a real word. But force it. Force that I, that mouth stretch to make the I sound. Gardent, in, like inside, gardent. All right, go ahead and try yours over here. Here we have an eh again. So this AR, we're recognizing it as a vowel controlled, an R controlled vowel. That A is saying ah because of the R that's after it. And then this E is saying its short sound because of the tap 2 rule, saying eh. So we have t, t, ah, b, n, t. Did you notice the mistake I almost made right there? I almost said that the sound for T is ta, ta, because I was looking forward to that A. But that is, that's something that I hope you will learn to catch yourself on, like I caught myself on. If you're not already catching yourself, then you will eventually. We have to separate those sounds. The T is voiceless. No vocal cords are used at all. T, t, t. Then we use our vocal cords for the ah sound. So the sound for T is not ta, it's not ta, it's not t, it's just t, t, t. Okay, so we have tarbent, tarbent, tarbent. Oh, now look at this. I told you that I was going to teach you about G next month, but it looks like we get a sneak peek here. Okay, so let me teach this to you. Get rid of my Q&A, clean this thing up. So C and G will make their soft sound if the next letter is an E, I, or Y. And its soft sound sounds soft. So the soft sound for C is S. It's what you hear when you say the name of the letter. C says S if there's an E after I or Y after it. Same with this G. You hear the J when you say the name of the letter G. That's its soft sound, and it will only say J, J if the next letter is an E, I, or Y, which we have right here. I think you might have some in your extra practice too. So we have J, sounds like a J. Because of the tap 2 rule. Here's our AR that's saying R, but separating the sounds, we have and then So J, ul, t. Gel art. So what would your words say over here, keeping an eye on that G, now that you know what it says if there's an E, I, or Y after it? So this E is going to say because of those two P's. There's two consonants after it. That's the tap 2 rule. This A will say because that's what A says when there's an R after it, if it's at the beginning or middle of the word. And then this G is going to make its soft sound and sound like a J, because that's what G's say when there's an E, I, or Y after them. So we have Jep, Jepa, Jepar, Jepark, Jepark. So now you're probably thinking of words like gel, gem, gym, magic. You're like, oh yeah, she's right. G does say J most of the time, not always, if there's an E, I, or Y after it. That is magic, isn't it? Don't you love it? All right, number 4. So here we have that AR, R controlled A. E says because there are two consonants after it. Y at the end of a multisyllable word usually says E. So our sounds are P, A, S, N, T, E. Pa, par, parse, parse, parsen, parcent, parcenti, parcenti. So what would yours be over here? Go ahead and try it. I haven't gotten any better at drawing with a mouse over the last few years. All right, let me just check the chat here. Okay. So AR is saying R. This A is saying This E is saying because of the tap 2 rule. Y at the end of a longer word usually says E. S, A, T, N, P, E. Sa, sar, sart, sarte, sarten, sartenp, sartenp. I'm dissatisfied with my spelling of that word, because usually if you have a P, it's going to be an M before it, not an N. But we can still read it this way. Sartenp. They're nonsense words, so they can be whatever. How are you doing so far? How did you do on Jepark and Sart? Let me know, 1 out of these 4, how many did you get right without me? 1 out of 4, 4 out of 4? Put it in the Q&A. How many of those 4 did you get right on your own? Got the last one really good. Woohoo! All of them, 4, all of them, 3 out of 4, 3 out of 4, 7 out of 4. What? All of them, 3 out of 4. Wow, you guys. All right, you're off to a really good start with this R control vowel stuff. Nice. So come down to the extra practice and let me know. Look at these monsters. Look at number 5. Which one do you want me to do with you? Let me know in the chat and I'll do 1 or 2 with you before I have to let you go. Number 5? Okay. You got it. Let's try it. So we know what this C is going to say, right? It's going to say S because of that E, I, or Y that's after it. This E is going to, that looks like a 5, it's an S. This E is going to say eh because of the tap 2 rule. This AR says R. I in the middle syllable says I. I in the middle syllable says I, regardless of if there are 2 consonants after it or not. A says a when the next 2 letters are consonants. Go for it. I'll let you try it. You're going to feel so good if you get this one. Go slow. You've got this. You can do it. You can do it. I'll even make it a little easier for you, although it's not going to be easy. I'll separate it right here. Right here. And right here if you want to read it as syllables. So let's do that. So we know that this C is going to say 5. No, I'm kidding. It's going to say S. I'm just a terrible drawer with my mouse. It's going to make the S sound. S. E will say E because of the tap 2 rule. So this first syllable is sem. Putting that on the shelf, starting with the P. We have P, L, R, plar. Putting those 2 syllables together. Semplar. There's that M before the P. Semplar. Putting Semplar on the shelf, start with a T, T-I, T, T, Semplarte. You're getting excited now, aren't you? Because you got it right, didn't you? We have Semplarte. Now we're starting with the F. Fact, fact, Semplartifact. You have to tell me, did you get it? Yes, Y, yes, or A, almost? Did you get Semplartifact? Did you get Semplartifact? Nice. Look at that. Wow. You can read Semplartifact, my friends. You can read anything if you were just taught how. I mean, don't you agree that you can read anything if you're just taught how? And the hard part after you get that mathematical equation or formula that I was talking to you about, and once you can plug in the rules, then the hard part might be getting the sounds, remembering what the sounds were at the beginning by the time you get to the end of a longer word. But that's why we do those different blending techniques. We can do successive blending where you grab just one sound at a time, going back to the beginning each time, or breaking it into syllables. And I am actually going to be teaching, I think it's in August. There's a lot of different things I'm teaching in August we're going to be there 2 weeks, I think. But I'm teaching you a lot of different strategies and a lot of different random rules that don't fall into its own month, but that it's going to help you so much. I'm really excited for next month. I'm excited for this month too, because there's a lot of R control vowels and W control vowels, and they're going to begin to make a lot more sense. All right. Have a great night. You're amazing. See you next time. Bye, everybody.